Okay, it looks like, I guess, 1 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and start. I'm going to check in with, I'm going to unmute Tim Atkinson. He is our recorder, just to see if there's any technical issues. Tim, how are we doing?
I'm good. You guys are loud and clear.
All right, thank you. All right, so we will start with our greeting. So welcome everyone. You're here for a meeting of the Board of Municipal Zoning Appeals docket. This is a WebEx meeting. Just before I turn it over to the chair, I just want to make sure everybody understands how everything is set up. If it is your application, you are here, I will elevate you to a panelist so that you can share your information. When your name is called, please turn on your camera if it's functional and we'll be able to see you. If you would like to testify in support or opposition of a matter, there's 2 ways to testify. You can put in the chat feature that you wish to testify, and I would need you to put the case number and whether you support or oppose. Please do not use the question and answer, but use the chat. And if there is a hand raise function as well, you can raise your hand and let me know if you wish to testify. If you're a call-in user, all I see is your phone number. So what I'll be doing is clicking on call-in users. You will hear 2 beeps. If you wish to testify, please state that you wish to testify whether you're in support or opposition. And let's see. So the order of the testimony is applicant, support, opposition, and then the applicant gets the last word in again before the testimony closes. If there's any issues with WebEx, please call our main office number, which is 410-396-4301. If you're having technical difficulties and can't participate, please email me a motion explaining what your technical difficulties are and what you would have testified but for your technical difficulties. I'll make sure that my email is in the chat. Also, for those of you on the call, we're going to try to, rather than use my Kathleen Byrne email, Baltimore City, we've created a central email for the BMZA. I know one of the reasons why we had a few last-minute oppositions is because Lavue's email was on the website for a long time, so I think people got in the habit of emailing her and then realized, I think just yesterday or the day before, that it probably didn't get to us, right? So we've shifted. There is a BMZA at baltimorecity.gov email that every member of staff has access to. We are checking it all every day and we'll address it. So for those of you who regularly participate in BMZA appeals, please use that for letters of support and opposition. All right, and I will turn it over to Mr. Fields.
Very well, thank you, Ms. Byrne. In this hearing session, the board will vote on each case and make a decision at the end of the docket. Again, unless there's some reason that comes up during the hearing which requires us to defer such determination. However, you may feel free to stay online to hear that deliberation, although you cannot participate in it. Otherwise, you can call the BMDA office tomorrow morning after 9 a.m. Number 410-396-4301. Again, 410-396-4301. You should receive your resolution in the mail within 30 days of today's event. We ask that you not do any work until you do receive that resolution, and certainly don't do any work in Baltimore City without pulling the proper permits. We do have at least one postponed case today. That matter is 2020-031, 1939 West North Avenue. The appellant was Zulfi Ahmad. That matter will not be heard today. I'll just reference this. Let's see, what do I have? This must be okay. 2020-088. Was that the posting issue?
Yes.
Okay. Another matter that was originally scheduled on this docket, 2020-088, 2763, the Alameda. The appellant is Jonathan Walcott. That matter will not be going forward either. There's a posting issue that needs to be resolved there. So those 2 matters are off the docket for today. So if you're calling in for those matters, you can get on with the rest of your day. I want to mention one thing with regard to, before I get to the consent, we have several matters with some opposition. Don't know how much there will be, but just be mindful to, stay alert and listen in for the folks who also testified on that matter before you, because we prefer that the testimony not be repetitive with regard to the basis of the opposition. So we'll, if I need to remind you, I'll do that as well as we go forward. We have a few matters on the consent docket today. I will call those matters. I think about 4 of them, and then we'll get to the regular docket. First case on the consent docket, case number 2020-254, 925 Ramsay Street. The appellant is Steve Wheeler. And this is a request to construct a 2-story rear addition. And while Mr. Wheeler gets online, we'll hear any staff or planning reports for that property.
Martin French from the Baltimore City Planning Department. Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French.
Staff report again is just to construct a 2-story rear addition, so they require a minimum rear yard variance extending all the way to the property line. Let me
Right.
see. I do not see Mr. Wheeler's actual name in the, let me see, unless, this is it. Hold on one second. So I'm going to go through callers to see if he's on the call-in. So Mr. Wheeler, if you hear 2 beeps, please state your name. Okay, let me try the next call-in user. All right, so I do not see Mr. Wheeler again here. Mr. Wheeler, if you are here and you're in under another name, please put in the chat so that I can unmute you and you can speak.
All right. Well, we're rooting for you, Mr. Wheeler.
We are, Mr. Wheeler. We are hoping you are here. All right, I don't see anything in the chat. We only have one call-in person right now. So if you want to.
Yep, let's move on. We'll
Okay.
circle back. Next case on the consent docket, case number 2020-266, 2420 North Calvert Avenue. The appellant is Jordan Haven. This is a request to use the first floor as an art gallery. I'll hear from staff and planning.
Mr. French, if you wouldn't mind going first for me.
Certainly. You're
Thank you.
welcome. Planning Department has no comment on this application at this time. Thank you.
All right. The owner has requested a art gallery, but is also looking at cultural facility. A cultural facility is permitted under the code, and there are several letters in support. So I will unmute the applicant. Let me see, Mr. Haven. There we go. All right, Mr. Haven, I'm going to unmute you.
Hi.
All right, and I'm
Afternoon,
going
Mr.
to
Haven.
elevate you to a panelist.
Okay. Also, my partner is on this call as well. She is the owner of the gallery. Her name is Joy Davis. She should be on there as well.
Okay.
That's great, Mr. Haven. You're on the consent docket for this session of the BMZA. Is there anything you'd like to add to your application at this time?
I don't believe I have anything additional to add, other than I want to thank Mr. French for bringing to my attention the discrepancies between the art gallery and the cultural institution. So thank you for that. I don't think I have anything else to say that's not already in the letters of support.
Very well. We have received all that material, and on the basis of those submissions, including your application. The board having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay. Let's move on to case number 2020, that's 267, 830 through 832 Park Avenue. The appellant is Miriam Ewers, and this is a request to construct a front fence.
Correct. All right, let me get Ms. Evers on the, I don't think planning had, Mr. French, did you guys have anything?
Correct. Planning Department has no comment except to note, of course, that this property is in the Mount Vernon Historic District, and therefore whatever is approved by the board will also require an authorization to proceed from this department's Historical and Architectural Preservation Division. Thank you.
Very well. Thank you, Ms. Friend.
All right, and again, same for staff, it's just a variance to construct a front fence 6 feet in height based on the slope of the lot and the location of the property. So Ms. Ewers, I've just unmuted you and I'm making you a panelist so you can speak. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Ms. Ewers. Can you hear me, ma'am?
Oh, wait a minute, hold on, I might not have unmuted her. There we go.
Okay. Ms. Ewers, are you there?
Afternoon. I'm here.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Is there anything you'd like to add to your application at this time?
Actually, this is the north side of our property that we're seeking to construct a new fence. There's no current structure separating myself and the neighbor. So it is actually a side yard project, not a front. And we are seeking a taller than normal fence for 2 reasons. One is the grade change situation, and the second is we did a bunch of acoustic research into materials and tactics for controlling sound between the 2 properties, and our advice from the acoustic experts was to go as tall as possible. So that is our proposal, and we have approval from CHAP, which is pending this hearing's decision.
Very well. Let me just ask, my docket indicates that there was an amendment either to the application or at some point. Is there any change from the time of your submission of your application to now for what it is you're seeking, ma'am?
The amendment was my attempt not to alarm my neighbors needlessly about the frontage. That I was just seeking to change the title of the hearing from front yard to side yard. So it was
Okay.
just a correction in title and be more accurate in the location of the work.
Understood. So you just kind of changed the label on it, but nothing underlying it has changed.
Correct.
Okay, wonderful. Now, happy to report to you that the board, having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Great. Have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Righty. And the final matter on the consent docket is case number 2021-003, 1727 North Charles Street. The appellant is the Baltimore Improv Group, and this is a request to install a projecting sign that will be above the ground floor. And I'll hear from planning and/or staff, if anything, while we get someone on the line.
Planning Department has no comment on this application at this time. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
There are 3 letters in support, Central Baltimore Partnership, Charles North Community Organization, and the owner, Guppy Management, and Mike Schechter. The request is a variance of the maximum sign area to install a projecting sign that will be above a ground floor. And let me see, I'm going to try to find the applicant here. Let's try the call-in first. Try the next call-in user. All right. Oh, here we go. Liz McKenna. Thank you, Liz. I will unmute you and make you a panelist. Okay, Liz.
Hi, everybody. Thank you.
Hi, Ms.
We
McKenna.
need-
How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Doing well, thank you. As you're on the consent docket for this afternoon session, and the question I have for you is there anything you'd like to add to your application at this time?
I don't have anything additional to add. I just want to thank the city and our funders, France Merritt, Central Baltimore Partnership, Mike Schechter, and the Station North Arts District for helping us with this request.
Very well. Well, the board, having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you for your submission, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Right, very day. All right, that concludes the consent docket for today. We'll turn it over now to the regular docket. And let's see. Well, you know what? I didn't see anything pop up for Mr. Wheeler. I didn't see a name or anything. Why don't we just go through, and maybe by the time we get to the end, if he's there, great. Wheeler, if you can hear us, do what you can to make it known that you want to go forward with this matter. This is the second presentation here, so when you're available. Calling the matter of 2020-255, 456 Pittman Place. The appellant is Michael Burton Brown. This is a request to consolidate and to alter the interior to use as 2 dwelling units. I'll hear from staff and planning.
Okay, planning department reviewed this application, noted that this property is in the Greenmount West area master plan area and Greenmount West community. The department is supportive of this application, which proposes combining 2 buildings, which are currently separate, and then using the 2 buildings as 2 dwelling units. There is also currently ground floor commercial space at the corner. It's our understanding that the applicant has made arrangements for that commercial space to continue for at least an additional year with the current occupant, commercial occupant of that space. The applicant is encouraged, because this property is in a National Register Historic District, to use the property tax credit program in order to assist completing the improvements to the property. Subject to those comments, the planning department is recommending approval of the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French.
Again, very similar comments from staff. It's the conversion of an MFD in R7 district. And there is 1 letter in opposition from the Mount Royal Terrace Historic District. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. That's the wrong one. I apologize. Let me get back to Pittman.
Greenmount West.
Yes, that's the one. The letter of opposition from Greenmount West. So it's the conversion of 2 row homes into a single MFD. Originally 2 units, 2 lots. Now be a consolidation. So Mr. Lundberg is here on behalf of the applicant, Michael Burton. So I will unmute him and elevate him to a panelist. Mr. Lundberg?
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for your time and attention to this matter. Yes, so as mentioned and reviewed, the project is the consolidation of 2 properties, 456 and 458 Pittman Place. The consolidation for this has already gone through the DOT process and has received approval. And we're hoping to gain zoning approval today to allow 2 residential properties on, 2 residential units on the property. As mentioned, the ground floor space is to remain commercial with its current tenant for a limited amount of time, but long term, we are looking to work with the community as the development team to find kind of the best and optimal use for the community and the Greenmount corridor as to what that ground floor space could be.
Okay.
And
Thank you, Mr. Lundberg.
it looks like we have Adam Kutcher from Greenmount West here. So, Mr. Lundberg, I'm going to mute you and then unmute Mr. Kutcher. Mr. Kutcher?
Yes, can you hear me?
Sure can. Go ahead,
Great.
sir.
Thanks so much. I chair the Grimet West Community Association's Land Use Committee. Our objection was a procedural one. We didn't have the opportunity to speak with the applicant beforehand, and as our protocols and bylaws state, we have to submit a letter of opposition in those cases. We were able to speak with the applicant this morning, and they've agreed to come to our monthly land use committee meeting this coming Monday, and to dialogue about this. And we're excited about the project. So I think that's where we are right now. You know, the forcing function of the VMZA allowed us to get in touch with the applicant such that we can have a conversation next week.
Okay. All right. Is there anything? I think I'm clear on where you are. Just so you understand, we will be going forward to make a determination on this matter today. I know you're going to discuss with the applicant, and you're excited about the project, which is great. But we will be resolving this matter today.
Understood.
Very well. Anybody else that we have to be heard on this matter?
I do not believe for 055. Let me check the, so Mr. Kuchar, I'm going to mute you and I'm going to check the call-in users. Again, if you're a call-in user and you hear 2 beeps and you want to testify, please state after you hear the 2 beeps.
Hi, my name is Attorney Ranisha Moore. Can you hear me?
Yes, are you here for the Pittman Place?
Yes,
Okay.
I am, yes.
Go ahead, Ms. Moore.
Hello, hi. Again, my name is Attorney Ranisha Moore, and I represent the 2 owners of the commercial space, or that are renting the commercial space at 456 Pittman Place. And I just wanted to go on the record and say that they have no opposition at this time. However, they want to make sure that they will be allowed to use the commercial space if needed past a year's time, as the original agreement was that they would be able to start using the space March 1st. And currently they are not in the space because it's not able to be used. I think there's some construction stuff going on there. And I just wanted to make sure that if they needed to, they would be allowed to extend the use of that commercial space past a year if necessary. I mean, if needed.
Okay. Ms. Moore, have your clients had a communication with the applicant here? If you know, regarding that?
There's actually a lease agreement signed that states that, but I just wanted to go on the record and also state that as well, just to make sure that their conditional use of that area as a commercial space would not be affected by the consolidation that the applicants are asking for today. Mr. Brown is asking for today.
All right. Mr. Lundberg, are you still there if you want to speak to that?
Yes, I am. Yeah, and just to confirm, this ask today is really just for the use of, or to permit 2 residential units on the property. And the consolidation is already through, and anything pertaining to the use of the ground floor space would really be between the tenants and the owner. But as it's currently submitted, the design of that commercial space is right now is for really just core and shell of the ground floor. And then eventually there would be separate permits. Again, once any agreement between the current tenants and the owner lapses, to fit that out as a separate tenant space. But again, just the ask today is for the 2 residential units on the upper floors.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, and Ms. Moore, to the extent there's an issue, I think that rightfully is probably going to be resolved either in the lease agreement or further discussion between your clients and the relevant parties, and they can go ahead and resolve the matter that here before the board.
Okay, and the consolidation request is only for the top floors, is that correct?
I do not, let's see, consolidate onto the use of exterior dwelling. Well, my understanding is, hang on a second, let me look at my notes.
Well, that was just what was said. I just wanted to clarify that. That's all.
The consolidation request is for 456 Pittman Place and 458 Pittman Place into one property that is now 456 Pittman Place.
So that is for the entire two buildings, is not just for certain floors in the building, correct, sir?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay. And so the lease agreement, my understanding is still going to be honored, and that this consolidation will not extinguish the conditional use that's already been granted, and that the current tenants can discuss with the new owners at the appropriate time the extension of the time period if necessary. Is that correct?
I'm not sure if Mr. Lundberg is in a position to respond to you, since he's here simply, reporting on the consolidation.
Yeah, I mean, all I can say to that is that seems like a question between the leasee and the leaser. So I'm not really able to speak on that.
Yeah, and that underlying information and matter is not, I guess, probably before the board. Certainly, if there's an appropriate consolidation which is on its way, we will honor that. And I don't think there's the ability to consolidate less than the actual fee, simple property. 458 are to be consolidated in as units, full units. So,
Question. I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir.
so I don't think
hear me?
there's. We can hear you.
The only question I have for the board, I guess, that I want to make sure it's clear, is that the consolidation will not extinguish the conditional use.
I don't know that there's. Mr. French, are you there and can speak to this question?
Well, not being a land use attorney myself, if the consolidation, as has just been stated, has already been approved by the city, then whether that has any effect upon anybody's land use, I think, is a separate question. The board is being asked to decide whether the property may be used for two dwelling units, and that's all the board is being asked to decide. It's not being asked to consider whether or not commercial use of the property exists or even should continue. So I think that's a separate matter that would have to be.
Thank you, Mr. French. I would agree.
I mean, I might be able to shed a little light here just because of what my past life has been. I can tell you if a use and occupancy permit has been issued to use the property pursuant to an already approved conditional use, that will remain until a new use and occupancy is submitted to replace that existing use. You can have more than one use at one block and lot. So it has everything to do with how you apply for the use and occupancy, or if the use and occupancy and conditional use that was provided by the board previously somehow needs to be amended or changed, then that would have to come back to the board. But I think as the chair stated, the only thing before the board right now is the residential component. So nothing's being done at this level to alter an already existing use and occupancy or already approved conditional use.
Thank you very much for that information. That is what I was just trying to get confirmation on. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
No problem.
There you go. Thank you for your input, Ms. Moore. Is there anyone else we need to hear from?
Welcome, Chair.
Let's see. I think we have one more call-in user. And all right, hearing none. I do not see. Let's see. This is Pittman 055. If there's anybody else here that would like to testify in opposition or support of Pittman, please put in the chat. Thank you. All right, that looks like that's it for Pittman.
All right, that'll conclude matter 2020-255. Moving on to the next matter on the docket, case number 2020-268, North Carrollton Avenue. The appellant is Bashar Hijazi. Request to use the premises for 6 dwelling units. I'll hear from planning and staff.
Planning Department officially has no comment on this, but does note that this property is in the Harlem Park 2 urban renewal area, which does permit multifamily dwelling use of the property. Thank you.
This property was previously approved for 6 dwelling units, and what is before the board is a variance for minimum lot area in order to continue to use it as 6 dwelling units. So the zoning administrator referred the applicant here for that variance. And let's see, so Mr. Hazar, let me see if he's here. Yes, there he is. Mr. Haziz?
Yes, I don't.
Good. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. I'm going to make you a panelist.
Can you hear us, sir?
Yeah, I can hear that. Good afternoon, everybody.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to keep your. I hear you. I'm going to ask you to keep your voice up. And tell us about your project, if you would.
Yeah, basically, I took the project 5 months ago, and I knew that it was approved for.
Sir, we're not quite getting what it is you're saying. I don't know if you're moving or in transit, but if you could pull over and try to get a clear signal.
Hello?
Yes,
Did you hear me?
I can. That's a bit better. Appreciate it. So if you wouldn't mind starting again.
So, yeah, so we took the project recently and found out it was basically approved for a 6 unit, and so we just trying to proceed forward to get the city approval so we can move on to finish the project. And the project has all the electric meters there, all gas meters there. It was already designed to be as a 6 units. Just want to make sure like I think it's a project.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're pretty much ready to go with the project.
Yes, indeed.
Okay. Does the board have any questions for Mr. Higazi? Hearing none.
None for me.
All right.
No questions.
If there's anyone else who needs to weigh in on the line.
Let me go through the callers. Let's see. Hold on one second. So I'm going to get onto the callers. If you're here for this particular property at Carrollton, please speak. Okay, it doesn't, I do not see anyone in the chat for this particular property. The letter of opposition was from the Greenmount West Community from the Harlem Park Neighborhood Council opposed the 6 units. And they essentially said that they only support 3 dwelling units in this particular building. They cite issues relating to trash and parking.
We're here just on a minimum lot area, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Looks like that's it for this matter.
Okay.
Well, take that one up at the end.
And it looks like Mr. Walker is here now on the call. If you want to go back to 925 Ramsey.
Mr. Wheeler, Steve
Mr.
Wheeler.
Wheeler. I'm sorry. Yes, Mr.
All right.
Wheeler.
All right, so let me just be sure we're concluding matter number 2020-268, 615 North Carrollton Avenue. We're going to go back to a matter that was on the consent docket, 2020-254, 925 Ramsey Street, Steve Wheeler, and this is a request to construct a two-story rear addition. Do we have anything from planning or staff on this before we hear from Mr. Wheeler?
Nothing in addition.
Okay.
All right, let me see. I believe
All right.
Mr. Wheeler is
Nothing in addition from planning.
a call in
Ms. French.
user. So I'm going to go through the callers. Mr. Wheeler, if you hear two beeps, please speak. Mr. Wheeler?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Mr. Wheeler. Great to have you with us.
Thank you.
All right. Well, you're here again on the consent docket. Sorry for the confusion at the last session, but we have you now.
Okay.
Is there anything you'd like to add to your application at this time, sir?
No, sir.
All right. Well, the board, having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Okay.
Enjoy your day. All right.
Thank you, buddy.
Okay. We'll move on to case number 2021-001, 2423 Greenmount Avenue. The appellant is Mohammed Chowdhury, and this is a request to use the premises for an auto repair garage. I'll hear from staff and planning, not necessarily in that order.
What I can actually jump in on this one.
Sure.
This is to use the premises for auto repair garage. The board has had this before them 2 other times and denied the application as to use the property. In February 2018, it was for an indoor hand car wash was denied. And in 2017, to use the premises for an auto repair garage was also denied.
Planning Department reviewed this application. As Ms. Byrne has indicated, this property has been in front of the board twice before. As noted in one of those hearings, there was previously use of the property as a non-conforming use, which had lapsed by the time of one of those hearings, which is over 2 years since today's date. The plan included with this application would also require vehicles being serviced to be backed out into Greenmount Avenue into oncoming traffic, which the Planning Department considers would create a hazardous condition, which is an additional reason for not approving this particular application. Therefore, the department recommends disapproval of the application, primarily because the proposed use is prohibited in the C1 zoning district where the property is located. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French.
It looks like Mr. Chowdhury, the applicant, is on the line, and I will unmute him and make him a panelist.
All right.
Mr. Chowdhury?
Yes.
Good afternoon, sir. Have you, hopefully you could hear presentations of staff and planning on this. You understand that you're in a C1 district and you're seeking the use of an auto repair garage. Unfortunately, that district does not allow such a use. So what can you tell us about where you are with this?
Yeah, so I can speak on that. Thank you for taking your time on that.
Sure.
So yeah, it's not going to be used for high volume car traffic coming in and out of that garage. It's going to be used for maybe one car per day where they're getting they're making car wrapping or film wrapping on the car. So they're not fixing cars in there. It's going to be used for either putting advertisement on that car or putting some type of film on the car. And that's what that place will be used for. We created a larger garage so the cars can back out very easily, remove the tree from that area so they could see the oncoming traffic. So that's the primary use for that space.
Well, I'm a little confused then because the request is to use it as an auto repair garage.
Yeah, that's what we were advised to put on, as it's, you know, still a car going in and being serviced on, but what the car is gonna be used, it's gonna be film wrapping on the car is what is gonna happen once it goes inside.
What are you doing with the vehicles once they're film wrapped? I mean, what's happening with the vehicles there?
Once they're film wrapped, the customer would pick them up, or they get their storage space within this building where they can be stored while the customer picks them up. So they're not going to be parked on the street.
Mr. French, would you mind weighing in on this the issue? You've reviewed the application and where we are with this, how it fits under the code.
I actually would suggest that that opinion or determination would need to be made by the zoning administrator. Apparently, the zoning administration office determined that what is being proposed for this property fits within the definition in the zoning code of motor vehicle service and repair minor, fully enclosed structure. And therefore, that's the reason that this came to the board. Had they made a different determination, perhaps this would not have come to the board. But the issue that the Helen is raising, quite frankly, is something that probably should have been raised with the zoning administration office to begin with. But once this appeal was classified the way it was by zoning administration, it's the department's opinion that the board has no authority to approve it.
Understood. So Mr. Chowdhury, I guess notwithstanding your clarification of what it is you're seeking to do, you know, in some situations the board's hands are tied, and here we have, as Mr. French mentioned, a determination by the zoning administrator as to what this is, what this project is vis-a-vis the code, and we are obliged to adhere to the code and then, you know, render determinations based upon that. I don't know what provision you have to go back to the zoning administrator at this point, but all we can do is render a decision on what's before us. So, you know, that's what we'll do. Any questions or anything that the board wants to add, or questions of Mr. Chowdhury?
Nothing from me.
Sure.
No.
Right. Let's Ms. Byrne, is there anyone else that needs to weigh in on this online?
I don't see anybody else in the chat that's asked, but let's try the call-in users.
We can try that. Just walk through.
Okay. Okay, no, it doesn't look like there's anybody in addition who is on the line for this particular appeal.
All right. Hey, Chowdhury, any final words from you for the board that you'd like us to consider before we get to the deliberations on this matter? Mr. Chowdhury, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Is there anything else you'd like to add at this time?
Nope, that's it.
All right, very well. That will conclude matter 2021-001. We'll move on to case number 2021-002. 4521 Parkwood Avenue. The appellant is Ramon Law, PC. This is a request to continue to use the premises for 2 dwelling units. I'll hear from staff and planning.
Planning department reviewed this application, noted this property is zoned R4, which is a zoning district which does not allow multifamily dwellings. The proposal is to use the property as 2 dwelling units. However, the last authorized use that is in the records available to the planning department states that this was authorized for use as a single-family semi-detached dwelling, which is a permitted use in the R4 district. And the zoning code does not allow conversion of single-family dwellings to multifamily dwellings in the R4 district. Therefore, the department recommends disapproval of the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French.
Staff report mimics very much what planning report has said, that a multifamily dwelling conversion is not permitted in an R4 district.
Okay.
And I believe Mr. Burgunder is the is here on behalf of the appellant. Mr. Burgunder?
Yes, can you hear
All
me?
right. Yeah, and I'll make you a panelist.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Burgunder.
Hi, how are you?
Doing well, thank you.
My client, Ms. Williams, is also logged in.
Okay.
Brittany Williams.
Brittany Williams, okay.
There she is. Okay, I'll also elevate her, make her a panelist, and unmute her as well.
All right.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Burgunder, we'll hear from you, and with
Yes.
particular respect to why this is be a permitted use, given what we've heard from planning.
Sure. This is, if I could, if Ms. Byrne, if I could have permission to share my screen.
Sure, I will pass you the ball. Give me one moment. There you go, Mr. Burgunder.
See if this works. Can you all see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is actually, we're not seeking to convert. This is a grandfathered use. We're seeking permission to continue the use as 2 dwelling units. This is a bit of an I'll proffer on behalf of Ms. Williams, who can testify to the same, but for the sake of shortening the experience, I'll make a proffer. The property is a semi-detached house, which is a bit of an oddity in this neighborhood, in that almost all the rest of the properties are single-family detached houses. But this one is a long-standing use, so we believe built in 1953 as 2 units. You'll see on the screen that I'm sharing is a very yellow kitchen. This is the first floor kitchen on the property. Ms. Williams bought the property very recently. This is the second floor kitchen, absent the yellow. So there are two complete kitchens in the property that are both long-standing. Neither looks like they've been updated anytime recently. There are also 2 electric meters. As you'll see, this is a picture that Ms. Williams took in the basement, 2 separate electric meters for electrical boxes. Electrical boxes for the first floor and the second floor. The front door has 2 doorbells, which obviously also is not new given the rust and the age of the style of the doorbell. As well, there's a first floor and a public service gas meter, as well as a second floor gas meter as well, which is different than the first floor gas meter. So there are actually three gas meters, one for the public service, and then there's also 2 electrical boxes for the property. As well, Ms. Williams spoke to the prior owner and learned from the prior owner about prior owners who had lived in the property on the second floor, as she does, that the property was built as 2, from 1953, built as two separate apartments. The building that is the other half of the semi-detached or semi-attached, depending on your perspective, if you're an optimist. But the building that's the other half is actually 3 apartments. And so this is, we believe, is the grandfathered use based on the evidence of the existence of 2 what appear to be very old and long-standing kitchens, the existence of the 2 boxes, the doorbells, and the 3 separate gas meters, including one for the public area, the public service, and then also the 2 separate electric meters installed by BGE.
Mr. Burgunder, does your research reflect, as we heard from planning, that the last permitted use was as a single-family dwelling?
You know, I don't have any research. The zoning cards, I don't know if they're back yet from the, they were sent off, I remember at the beginning of COVID to be scanned. Last I checked, they hadn't been returned. So I don't have any research to reflect anything other than, what can be seen on the ground and at the property. And I think that I don't know what the prior owners did as far as registering or not registering. Ms. Williams will register her units as rental. Well, she lives in one. So the first floor unit would be registered as a rental unit should this grandfathered use be approved. We believe that, you couldn't get all of the evidence here together if it weren't a longstanding use as such. And so we would ask that it be grandfathered as 2 units, as we believe that it's been used as 2 units since the construction of the building.
Let me ask Mr. French. Mr. French, from planning standpoint, what the obviously there's some document or record we're pointing to that has reflects the history as a single-family dwelling.
Well, we didn't have a document per se. What we have is
Okay.
access to a permit system,
Right.
which is actually administered by another agency, of course. And so we can only view that particular bit of information. I would have to say, looking at the photographs that the appellant has presented, I'm kind of intrigued personally about 2 electric meters, but 3 gas meters. That's a pretty unusual setup. Typically, the public service meter is an electric meter and not a gas meter. But regardless of that, it certainly looks as if the property is continuously in use as more than one dwelling unit based upon these photographs.
Thank you. So let's see. Ms. Byrne, do you have anything on the permit history on this?
Let me see if we have anything in the zoning card.
Are the zoning cards back?
They are.
Oh.
They've been returned recently. They've all been scanned, and I know housing is in the process of actually making them available in CCE, the permit system. So they were recently returned. They are indeed back. So let me see.
From the looks of it, it doesn't appear that anybody's pulled a permit recently.
No. But there should be parcel information. Yeah,
Mr. Burgun,
go ahead.
Mr. Burgun, when was the last time the property was occupied? Do you know?
Ms. Williams, I believe the property's been occupied continuously.
Absolutely.
So there are 2 tenants in the property right now?
No, I live here alone now. I wanted to get this process taken care of first before renting it out.
What was the situation when you bought it? Who was living there?
The previous homeowner is the daughter of the original homeowner. So it's always been owned by one family. It's always been 2 apartments. They just lived here as an extended family in both units.
Were they living there when you purchased the property?
The daughter purchased
Yes.
it from her father, and she was living here, yes.
And when did you buy the property?
March 2020.
In the permit records, there has not been a construction permit pulled on this property. The last permit was for a chimney liner in 2006. And when you look in the permit history, it gives parcel information. And the last parcel information that was entered was as a single family dwelling. So as Mr. Burgunder states, that the zoning card is not available yet in the permit history. So they haven't pulled construction permits in a really long time, and the permit history, I believe, goes back to the 90s in CCE.
And given that permit history going back to the 90s and reflecting a single-family dwelling,
Right. It just identifies as a single-family dwelling in the parcel history. As Mr. Burgunder said, we don't have access to the actual zoning card. Just for all of you zoning nerds out there, the entire zoning history of Baltimore City was in a card catalog file on the first floor, and has been like that since I think 1930 when they did the survey. It wasn't until the car hit the side of the building that knocked over the file cabinet that we were actually able to get them scanned. So there you go.
Yeah, so what I would say is that obviously the use of the property as 2 units wouldn't have been corrected since the 1990s if nobody had submitted a building permit to do so. And obviously, I think judging by the looks of the 2 kitchens from the interior, that nobody's pulled a permit since well before the 1990s. So I would say that having the other photographs that I've shared and the testimony of Ms. Williams as to the existence of the 2 units is, I mean, I would hope persuasive to the extent that there is evidence of the 2 units that predate the zoning code.
Katie, do we have any idea when the cards will be available?
I think they should be available within the next few weeks. So my understanding is that they've all been scanned, and I've asked for a copy on a detachable hard drive so that we can search those cards. So they're all by address and block and lot. So the BMZA and planning as well should be able to have access to those cards hopefully within the next few weeks. Right now they're trying to figure out how to link the scan into the existing permit system.
Okay.
Mr. Burgunder, to the extent that we get the zoning card and it reflects single-family dwelling, what would be your position?
I would say that it would be, I wouldn't change my position. I mean, again, Mr. French has been doing this longer than I have. I mean, you don't get 2 old-looking electric meters and the 2 doorbells, and I think that certainly in my experience, this is sufficient to support the grandfathered use. Obviously, the goal would be to show that it predates the zoning code. In this case, predates all zoning codes, the most recent prior current one. But the testimony of Ms. Williams, and she had spoken to the daughter of the original owner, and those were the people who built moved into the place, let me say that, or bought the place in 1953. It's certainly well hearsay, but that's the conversation she had with the daughter who moved out when Ms. Williams purchased the property. So I think we've submitted enough here to the board to support the grandfathering of this use.
All right. Anything else? Any further questions for Mr. Burgunder?
None from me.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your presentation, sir.
Thank you. Have me stop sharing. I don't know how to.
Oh, let me take the ball from you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to the next matter on the docket, case number 2021-004, 2312 Utah Place. The appellant is Marilyn Walker. This is a request to continue to use the premises for as 3 dwelling units. I'll hear from staff and planning.
Planning Department reviewed this application. Unfortunately, similar to the appeal you were just hearing, the information available to the department shows that the last authorized use for this property is a single-family dwelling. This is an R7 zoning district. The application states that the property was previously, at a while back, used as a multifamily dwelling, but was reconverted to a single-family dwelling on July 8th of 2010 by its previous owner, who owned it from 2008 until January of 2021. The zoning code does not authorize the board to approve conversions of single-family dwellings to multifamily dwellings in the R7 zoning district. That must be authorized by ordinance of the mayor and city council. Therefore, the department recommends disapproval of the application because the board is not authorized by the zoning code to approve conversion of a single-family dwelling to a multifamily dwelling in the R7 zoning district where the property is located. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Frank.
There are, staff would mimic the content of planning's summary. There are 4 letters in opposition, one from a Miss Melda Washington, one from the Mount Royal Terrace Reservoir Hill Historic District, one from Jerica Robinson, and one from Kimberly Forsyth. And we have Ms. Walker, the applicant, on the line, and I do believe there are those here that would also like to testify in opposition, but I'll get Ms. Walker unmuted. Ms. Walker?
Yes, hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you, Ms. Walker, for hearing today. Can you tell us about the project? And in particular, you may have heard from planning that it appears to be an issue that the last authorized use of this premises is as a single-family dwelling. In conversions.
So, a year ago, I was going to, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay, so a year ago, early March, first week of March, I had actually gotten a call from my realtor in regards to the property being for sale as a multi-family unit. And always wanting a brownstone and wanting to be able to be a part of the community in Baltimore, I pursued it. And after closing, it was the inspector, we had the appraiser, everyone who went through. It was already sectioned off as 3 units. And no one ever said anything about it being a single family. Even Charles White, who sold it, and my realtor, Donnell Harris, who sold it more or less, to me, no one mentioned it. None of the writing until I applied for my certificate of occupancy. And that is when I was told by Mr. Crosby of Baltimore City that this had been converted to a single family unit. And all I had to do was to contact the mayor's office to have it converted back. I also had contacted BG&E, and I have been paying the gas bill, electric bill. Everything is all sectioned off as 3 units. There was no indication of it being a single family.
Except the records reflected as a single family once they were reviewed. Correct?
Right, and that was brought to my attention when I applied for the certificate of occupancy. And at that point is when I was actually saying I would love for it to continue as the 3 units. That's when it was brought to my attention that Mr. White had converted it back to a single family. He actually even sold it and have it listed as a 3 unit. He did not even have it listed as a single family. So there was no way for me to know, since this is my first time being able to purchase anything in the Baltimore, in Baltimore City. Baltimore City.
Okay.
So this was news to me, and the surprise was just, I guess, mine, because I had no idea at all.
Yeah, it certainly seems like that the seller knew that he had converted it into a single family, but did not advertise it that way, unfortunately. Sitting as a board, I think we're bound by what the records reflect, and I think you've acknowledged that it was converted previously, simply unbeknownst to you. Now we have to take the records as we find them and determine whether it's within the board's authority to grant this request, given the legal status of the matter.
For it being an R7, which is what I was also told, and it was just a matter of me wanting to be able to purchase something to leave as a legacy for my children. I had no idea that something like this, would have occurred. So I have been sitting with this property for a year now. Actually, it was actually a little over a year that I purchased this property.
And what have you done with it in the year?
And for me, I'm actually adding, because the property that I have done, I have updated all of the bathrooms. It is not even, I would consider, this is like a home. It is an actual beautiful place that I am so proud of. I mean, it is going to be adding to the neighborhood. I have a nonprofit that I am looking to be able to work with others in the neighborhood for the youth program. And there's a lot that I have been listening on to the monthly meetings on the last Tuesday of the month, I have actually inserted myself in the community because it is something that I didn't know a lot about until I purchased the property. And I'm proud to say that I own something in Baltimore City, and I love this home. And that's what I'm looking to do, is to provide a place for professionals from the hospitals, the universities, whoever it is in the neighborhood. I am looking to add. I am not trying to take anything away from the neighborhood because it is a place that I truly love. And it's something that I would like to provide a home for at least 3 professional families. I did not, everything that I have upgraded, I did not, it is not even like you would say, oh, this is just a place that she just put just anything in it. I put thought into everything that I put into that. It is my first property that I'm owning, and I am really hurt to know that something like this, would happen.
Yes, I'm certain that's the case. Okay, let's see who else we have on the call to weigh in on this matter.
Okay, we have, I believe, 2 callers in opposition. So, Ms. Walker, I'm gonna mute you. Ms. Washington? Ms. Washington? Ms. Washington? Ms. Washington? I unmuted you. You should be able to speak. She's saying hello in the chat. We can't seem to hear you, ma'am. Let's try it. Let me unmute you again. Can you hear us, Ms. Washington? Can you try to speak?
Is Ms. Washington one of the individuals who submitted a letter?
She did. Yes.
I don't see her on our call. I still see Burgunder and.
Let me see.
I see her on the attendee list.
Yeah.
Melda?
I can try to. Here, let me see if I can make her a panelist. Ms. Washington, can you speak now? And it doesn't matter whether she's an attendee or a panelist. She's unmuted. And I see in the chat that you're here. We also have Miss Robinson is also on the call.
Erica Robinson?
Yes. So, Miss Washington, I'm going to mute you for a moment. And if you wouldn't mind putting in the chat anything that you would add in addition to the letter that you submitted while we hear from Miss Robinson. Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, and good afternoon, and thank you for taking my call. I have been residing in this neighborhood since 2006. I'm too is an owner that took a house and renovated it that had used to be a multi-family dwelling and changed into a single family dwelling, which I currently live at on Bolton Street. The reason why I'm opposing this, and like
Hold on for a second, ma'am. Hold on.
Sorry.
Whomever is typing, could you mute? That's better.
And the reason why I'm part of a new organization called the Reservoir Hill Association. And one of the reasons why I am one of the founders of this new organization is because we're trying to bring transparency back to our neighborhood. We have people, and I'm taking nothing against Ms. Walker. I understand she wants to purchase something in this great neighborhood of Reservoir Hill. It is a neighborhood that's vibrant, very diverse. It's up and coming. I was a big part of the person who was able to have the low income housing be demolished with a lot of meetings and bringing resources to have that knocked down so we could, and taking nothing against the Madison North Apartments, but we all know what type of establishment that was, housing it was. So we are now fighting to get something grand there. But what we're having now is a lot of outside developers, and that's what I said in my letter. And that's what I mean outside, people who don't live in our community, people who don't live in our city. Because I think Ms. Walker, according to the paperwork I saw, live in Fort Washington. They come in, they meet a couple of times with several couple organizations, and she's saying the end of the month, that means she's meeting with Reservoir Hill Improvement Council, who is a council and an organization that doesn't represent the community. People come in, they don't meet with the people of the neighborhood to get their view on changing our single family homes to multi-dwelling homes. We have enough rental properties and enough multi-dwellings of units in our neighborhood. I think we only 20% of single families, and I'm not taking away from her wanting to give us to a legacy for her children. I'm not taking away from her. She's saying that she wants to bring in professional people, but she's not there to monitor those individuals. It takes away a lot of our resources. It takes away our parking, our trash resources, it just, our variance. It takes away a lot that we're trying to more or less stabilize this neighborhood, more of homeowners, so people can live there and leave a legacy for their families as well as a single family, just like the multi-dweller unit individual developers are doing in a neighborhood. And so with that said, this is why I'm in opposition. This is why Ms. Washington is opposition. And there are a lot of other people, as my letter said, there's a lot of extensive, we've had a meeting yesterday, and we had a lot of people who are opposed to this as well. So we hope that you would take this matter in consideration. I understand, like she said, she didn't know, but then that's what it calls with doing your homework. You got to do research about a place where you move into. I own 4 or 5 different, matter of fact, I own, not only do I live there, I rent there. And I mean, I own a building there on Utah as well, in that same block. So, but I did the research to find out what are the, what's going on in the neighborhood, what is allowed in the neighborhood. I'm sorry that someone, like you said, Mr. Charles, whoever sold her the property, to me, sound like under false pretenses. I understand that some work was done. People didn't know what was going on. And so now we at this point where she's now out of a lot of money. I understand that. But again, if we start changing the rules for one, we got to start changing the rules for all. And that's what we need to stop doing. If it was a single family, it needs to stay a single family. Now, if we start allowing people to come in and want to change the rules, the next person going to feel the same obligation to them as well, that they felt that they should get it because they built in it and they were able to take a multi-dwelling, make it back to us, take a single family, make it to a multi-dwelling. I think it's on the books that once it's a single family, nobody has the right to change it to a multi-dwelling unless you go through the proper channels. And obviously, it sounds like this was not done. And I just feel that I just hope that you in favor and vote on the neighborhood stance on this. And I appreciate you listening to me.
Thank you so much for your presentation, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Asked Ms. Washington to put what she would testify to in the chat. She said that she would like to call the history regarding the property, and that that there are citations issued against the property, that work has been done outside the permit boundaries. She's also on several neighborhood associations and boards and has not met Ms. Walker. And she does live somewhere else, and that there are citations regarding trash, huge amounts of trash and debris. And let's see, Ms. Walker, Ms. Washington has called in. So I'm gonna try the phone numbers now for this. Are you here for Utah? Okay. Ms. Washington? One more. Ms. Washington? No, she can hear me, but let's try you again, Ms. Washington. I'm gonna try to unmute you. Ms. Washington?
Hello?
Oh, Ms. Washington?
Great.
Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm sorry. Yes, actually, I live down the street from the property, and I actually can testify to being on several boards. As a matter of fact, I'm on one with a couple with Ms. Robinson, Jerika. And regarding the property, if you look at the citations, there have been a few citations issued on that, and even the amount of work that appears to be done from what is shown on the debris in the backyard doesn't correspond to what the permit work is showing. And we've had this happen on several properties over here. You know, the people, you know, come in and they, you know, do a lot of work on these historic properties, and we never really know, you know, what's going on because we're looking at the permits and they're not the same as to what we're seeing. So I wanted to point that in. And also, too, is that where we are on the street that I'm on, we're on the South Lake, between Whitelock and Ducatel, there are at least over 35, 36 houses that are multi-units, and most of them are 4 units. And to be honest, there are only 16 homeowners here. And the amount of trash in the back is just ever growing. And there's no such thing as recycling. Everything is trash from the multi-units. They're all trash. And I may be exaggerating a little bit, but there is an overabundance of trash. But this seems to be just a history, and we need to somehow or another get a grip on this, and also the demands that it puts on the city. To be honest with you, when we first moved here, my husband and I were noticing that, you know, we figured out, you know, the trash man came early this morning. We saw him leave, and, you know, as time has gone on and we've lost services, because now we have 1 day of recycling, which is very light, and 1 day of trash. The poor trash man isn't getting here till like 7 o'clock at night. And so we're seeing all of a sudden his, you know, I'm sure the route is changing, and everything is accumulating, right? And it's a demand that's not on the city, that's not fair to the rest of us. And a lot of these units are actually even putting out maybe 1 or 2 garbage cans, and they're overflowing. And the alley looks just awful. And even the front of some yards are not reflective of this beautiful community. So that's my input.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Hold on, Ms. Walker. Do you have a question for Ms. Washington? Walker?
One thing is in regards to the property that I purchased.
Wait a minute. Do you have a question of Ms. Washington?
Yes, because she's saying more or less that I do live in Fort Washington. My plan actually is to be able to reside in one of the units, because it's not as if I'm purchasing this for others to just come and to tear down the neighborhood. And I would really like to be involved and to know a lot more about it. It's just that being new to the neighborhood and not really knowing what was expected of me. But knowing now, even I have approached other people in the Baltimore area to bring my nonprofit to Baltimore so that I can have a presence there. Being able to renovate the property, to me, when she's saying there was a lot of trash, I have been there. As far as the parking, I am also creating parking space in the back so that the people will be able to have place to park. So it's not as if I am taking away anything, but I'm actually trying my best to be a part of the neighborhood, be involved with the neighborhood. I also was going to try and be a part of the board. I don't know enough, and I'm trying to insert myself and to bring something to the neighborhood. I am not trying to take anything away. And in regards to renovating the place, that was something where the upgrades, I did get permits for electrical, plumbing. We clean out all of the bathrooms and upgraded those things. And I'm willing to be able to come and give them a tour of the place so that they can see that it wasn't as if a lot of extensive renovation was done. All I did was take what was already there and upgrade it. I repainted, and bathrooms were done. We did pull permits for that. I think the electrical stuff, we did pull permits for that. But being a person that I am as a fashion designer, I was able to design that place to be able to add to the community. And I am willing to move into the community. And I am willing to be a part of whatever organization that you have in there. I may not have done it up front, but now that I know, and it's about being able to get the knowledge to do what I'm doing, allow me to be able to be a part of the community and not push me out of there.
All right, thank you. Ms. Byrne, I just want to be sure there's no one else that needed to be on the call or weigh in before we got the final word from Ms. Walker, which we just heard. You're muted.
Sorry, I was muted.
Sorry.
If you wish to testify on this matter, and please make sure you put your name in the chat. Right now, I'll go through the callers.
Thanks.
Okay, nothing new in the chat, and no one responded for the call-in users.
Okay. All right, Ms. Walker, just back to you. I think we heard a summation from you, but is there anything else you'd like to add?
I just would like for you all to really consider what I have, what I'm bringing to the community. I understand, and I heard what Mrs. Robinson and Ms. Washington, what they had to say, and I do understand that. But allow me to be able to be a part of a community and bring something positive to the neighborhood, even in regards to my youth program. Allow me to be able to work with other people in the community to help the youth that's on the street. My program is more or less one that is helping to those kids who are in foster care and whatnot. I'm looking to help the women who are returning out of jail. I have, I mean, there's so much that I am actually doing already for what I just did, a magazine where most of the people were from Baltimore, and I bring an awareness to social issues out in my fashion. It's not as if I'm a person who is taken away. I am someone who's coming to add to the community.
Right.
So give me that opportunity as a 65-year-old who is retired. Just allow me to be able, I'm not the one who's coming to tear down. And you can actually see it if you go by the property. Now, the front is clean, the back is clean. I come into that property and I make sure I sweep all the way to the street. That property is not filthy, it is not dirty, front nor back. And now I'm putting a parking pad where the tenants will be able to park. And when I come in, I'll be able to park. There is a basement in that property as well that I am looking to be able to come there and to live, especially for when the reservoir is open. I want to be able to have a presence there. It's not as if I am just having a place for people to, just any and anybody to come and move in there. It's not like that. And it was something that was already sectioned off. The meters are in there. It was originally a 3-unit.
Yeah, we understand that. We have that information, and I think we understand your point.
Okay.
All right. Any questions from the board?
No questions.
Okay. Thank you.
None
All right.
for me.
All right. So we're going to wrap up 2021 004. Thank you for your presentation, Ms. Walker. We'll take this up at the end. Moving on to matter number 2020-259, 1610 Evanston Street. Appellant is Sori Balbe. Request is to use the portion of the premises for a retail convenience store. Now, hear from staff and planning.
Mr. French, would you like to go first?
Thank you very much. Yes, Planning Department has reviewed this application. Noted that this property is a commercial building, a detached commercial building. A one-story retail convenience store is the previous use of the property, specifically a retail goods establishment with no alcoholic beverage sales. That is the type of neighborhood commercial establishment use in the R6 zoning district where this property is located. However, this property is also in the urban renewal area known as the Coldstream Homestead Montebello Urban Renewal Plan area. And that particular plan prohibits the proposed use, specifically because it prohibits neighborhood commercial establishments from being established or reestablished within that urban renewal area. For that reason, the department recommends disapproval of the application because the proposed use, which would be a type of neighborhood commercial establishment, is prohibited in the Coldstream Homestead Montebello urban renewal area where this property is located. Thank you.
Mr. French, I have a question for you. Does the
Yes.
urban renewal plan preempt the zoning code as regarding the neighborhood commercial establishments?
They are both ordinances. Now, there is a provision in the zoning code, I believe it's subsection 1-204B. If any condition or requirement imposed by this code, meaning the zoning code, is either more or less restrictive than a comparable condition or requirement imposed by any other provision of this code or any other law, rule, or regulation of any kind, including an applicable urban renewal plan, the condition or requirement that is the more restrictive governs. And on that basis, the department is recommending disapproval.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Staff report also mimics what planning has identified. Prior use, there was a use for a grocery store back in 2006. Ownership transferred in 2019. As Mr. French stated, there's the zoning code and then the urban renewal ordinance. And the urban renewal ordinance is more strict as far as uses than the regular zoning code. There are 2 letters in opposition, one from the Coldstream Homestead Montebello community through Mr. Washington, as well as Councilwoman Ramos. And I believe the owner is on the line, and we will start with Mr. Balde. Mr. Balde?
Yes, good afternoon. So Mr. Balde is here. My name is Mamadou Ndao, and I'll be speaking on his behalf.
Okay.
All right, go ahead, sir. Tell us about this project, but we want to particularly like to hear your position on the prohibition
Sure.
by the urban renewal plan.
Sure. Thank you, and thank you, Mr. French, also for that explanation. So Mr. Balde bought the business back in May of 2020. When he bought it, that's his first experience really owning a store. So that's something that he wanted to do for a long time, and he found this opportunity. And he was told when he bought the store was still open and functioning. The building, as Mr. French noted, is a commercial building. It stands out in the neighborhood. It's the only one-story building in the neighborhood built for commercial use. When he bought the building, he's renovated the building inside and out, made it look really way better. He signed the lease because he was under the impression that he could just continue the same use, and he didn't know much about the zoning laws. So his first contact with the zoning office, actually, he was told that yes, he can continue the use, although it's a non-conforming use, but it's existing and it's just a continuation of a non-conforming use. He proceeded to also obtain approval from the health department and from the fire department. So he then proceeded to get his use and occupancy and was then by then referred to the board. I jumped into this project very late, so I've been trying to call and try to get record also, because if the store was still open, I'm convinced that there are records from the health department and from the fire department to show that the store there were no abandonment. I haven't been able to get a response yet from the health or fire departments. But also is to be noted that the building was never declared vacant. So it was a vacancy process that was started by the city but was not really completed. Again, I jumped on it late, but I think that it could have been even approved by the office of the zoning administrator, just as a continuation of as a ownership change, really for this business. Yeah. Everybody has already approved him, and he's ready to really open. And the use is not really. I don't think that the use would be in any way, shape, or form detriment to the neighborhood. So he will be providing everyday items. Everyday items to neighbors who can just walk to the store. And there's not a lot of store around there. No grocery store around there. The closest one would be the Giant. And it's not at walking distance.
He's coming.
So
hold on. Is this Mr. Balde that's speaking?
Yes.
On top of you?
Yes.
One, we can hear him. So if you'd like to speak, you can feel free to go on record and do that.
Okay. No, he was just trying to, tell me about the fire and health department approval.
Okay.
Yeah, but just to wrap up and not to, continue going on and on. So I think although the urban renewal plan may, not approve the use, it is not a use that was abandoned. It is not a use that's being revived. It's just continuing a use that still exists and making the building renovating the building to really make it look better. And I think it will be, just to the benefit of the neighbors.
Sir, can I get you to spell your first and last names for us, just for the record?
Yes, it's Mamadou is spelled M-A again, D as in David, O-U. The last name is Ndao, N as in Nancy, D as in David, A-W.
Thank you.
Question. So Mr. Balde purchased this property in 2019. Is that right?
No, he did not purchase. He rented the store. He purchased a business. So meaning that the equipment, everything contained in that store. But the store was purchased by the current landlord, who still owned the building and who tried to run the store. I think the store was being run by his wife. He entered into a lease to continue running the store back in May.
Okay. Is Mr. Balde the owner of the property or a lessor?
No, he's the owner of the business, not the property.
Okay. My notes reflect the new owner bought the property in 2019.
Yes, it is correct. And the new owner, I spoke to the zoning officer earlier. The new owner, when he purchased the property, he applied. He submitted an application for use and occupancy. But the application, he did not move forward with the application. I think he had some hiccups with the fire and maybe the health department. So although he continued using the store, but he did not have a use and occupancy under their name.
So your client is seeking a use and occupancy to use the property as it previously was as a store.
Yes, a convenience store.
Okay. The question of both staff and planning, the issue regarding discontinuation or not, is that a separate issue of the restriction in the urban renewal plan, or is the restriction in the urban renewal plan impacted by the continuation or not of the prior?
If the property has been continuously used as a neighborhood commercial establishment, as it's now called since 2017. And there has not been an interruption, and therefore there is not a reestablishment of neighborhood commercial establishment, then it probably would be allowed to continue basically as what would be considered under the urban renewal plan, a form of non-conforming use. But the real issue in front of the board is whether there's evidence to prove that the property, in fact, did not have a discontinuance for at least 12 consecutive months of use in a way that's now not allowed by the urban renewal plan.
And chiming in for a staff report, there is no vacant building notice on this property, but that's not the be-all, end-all for the termination of a use. It makes it easy if there's a vacant building notice because it gives a date certain that the property is deemed uninhabitable or unfit for human habitation or occupancy. But that doesn't mean that there hasn't been a 12-month lapse. So evidence to show that the use discontinued for a period of time so that there was a break has to be done through an evidentiary manner.
Okay. So going back to Mr. Balday or his representative, you're asserting that there was no discontinuation and no break. I understand that Mr. Balday purchased, maybe I don't understand, purchased the building or purchased the business?
Business, yes.
Pardon me?
Yeah, the business.
In 2019?
No, 2019, that's the current owner who purchased the building then. So when the current owner purchased the building in 2019, then he also was running the store. His wife was running the store. So Mr. Balde purchased the business to continue the store. He entered into a lease agreement to continue running the store in 2016. I'm saying in May of 2020. And then proceeded to renovate the building because I think there were prior issues from the previous owner in regard to fire and the health department, and that's why they could not really obtain the use and occupancy. So he's trying to make things right, and getting all the right approval and getting through the fire, which he has already done. He has already obtained approval from the fire and the health department. And the only hiccup now is the and I apologize to the board that I jumped into it this morning because he was getting also bad information from the person he hired to help throughout this process, and did not really proceed to get all this information that could have really helped today. So I submitted the request. I was told that for the fire marshal, it would be I have to email to try to get the information. I was provided the email address. I called also the representative from the health that also left a message there to try to get the most recent health inspection and the most recent also fire inspection for that property. And I think
so you're saying your client has those inspections now. When did he get them?
No. When did the fire?
The fire and the fire department.
So let me check your paper.
And let me go back just a second. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting your name, but I know you're the representative for Mr. Balde. But you're what I'm hearing is that in 2019, when the prior owner purchased the property, they were not able to get a use and occupancy because of some lacking, some condition of the property, so on and so forth, which your client is now remedied.
Yeah, so what I was told by the zoning examiner, Mr. Abbas, that I spoke to, was that there was a use and occupancy application that was started in 2019 by the current owner.
Okay.
The fire inspection, I think, and health inspection were not approved for that use and occupancy, which was
You
never.
can use the property as a store, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. When did the approval of the fire inspector and the health inspector, when was that granted?
Yes, I'm trying to get that information from my.
I mean, you would agree that if you didn't have a use and occupancy to use as a store, it wasn't used properly as a store, right?
No, I mean, so it was a use and occupancy, but not just under the current owner's name. It was a issued to the building, but not under the current owner's name.
I'm not sure what you're stating, but go ahead. Tell me, give me that date for when this approvals were granted. The client, I would assume, knows.
Okay. Yeah, he's trying to pull it from his cell phone.
I recognize we haven't heard from any of the opposition, but obviously this evidence is pertinent, I think.
And we have several people on the line in opposition, so.
Very well. All right, sir, I tell you what, we have that question pending in terms of when these approvals that you referenced from the health department and fire department were granted.
Okay.
You can answer that down the road if you like, but I want to be sure we use this time to get some testimony in from folks who want to
Sure.
something to offer.
Sure.
Ms. Byrne, why don't you go ahead and see who else we have on the line?
She's on mute. Miss Byrne, I think you're on mute, but I think you called me because you unmuted me.
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry.
It's
Councilperson
totally
Ramos.
okay. I had I had a bill hearing and I had a CHAP hearing and now this, so it's all at the same time. So I understand, no problem.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
And
go ahead.
thank you to this board and staff for your attention to this matter. Councilwoman representing this area. You can see from my letter that we are opposed to this appeal. So we actually do favor the staff recommendation to disapprove the appeal. You will hear from community leaders today that when we're talking about evidence, and also you can see from my testimony, there's a photo from December of 2019 where the building is chained up and there looks like there's no activity there and there's trash piling up everywhere. There has been no activity in that building for over 12 months. And so we really appreciate your support of the community goals to keep this as not as a store. And you'll hear from residents about some of the issues that they've had with this property as well. And so I thank you for your time and consideration and look forward to this board voting with staff recommendation to disapprove this appeal. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
I'll now move to Mr. Mark Washington. Mr. Washington, you are unmuted. Mr. Washington.
Yeah, can you hear me?
We can, sir. Go ahead, Mr. Washington.
Thank you. As you heard from the Department of Planning, the use request is not allowed or permitted. Chum Community Corporation and can verify that the store has been closed since late 2018. Mr. Yam, the building's long-term owner, stopped operating the store and sold the property to Mr. Kim. This whole action happened back in 2018. In January of 2019, we met with a representative of Mr. Kim who was referred to us by the Baltimore Development Corporation. They wanted to discuss plans for the block. They wanted to get an idea of how long it would take for redevelopment to occur or for the city to acquire the property. The building was padlocked and did not operate as a business. Further, there are no Maryland state sales tax receipts from that period that anyone can produce that would show that it was in fact operating as a store. In the time since the store has been closed, the community has made tremendous progress in that area. Those blocks that fall within 2 blocks of Clifton Park are high priority redevelopment target for DHCD and the community, similar to what you see in Patterson Park. The community's redevelopment plan for the area calls for reduced density new affordable housing. DHCD is engaged in a robust blight elimination process, preparing the area for future development. At this point, most of the 1600 block of Abbotsford Street has been demolished, with the remainder to follow soon once acquisition is complete. Since the implementation of the community's redevelopment plan, we have been able to rid the area of the deadly and notorious AK gang that used to operate out of 1610 Abbotsford Street. So notorious, the AK gang even tagged the doors of the store to indicate it was under their control. And I believe Councilperson Ramos submitted that picture to you with the letters AK clearly marked on the front door, indicating it was gang territory. Since then, we've been able to reclaim Briscoe Park since the store has been closed, complete with a new playground from the open air drug market that it used to be. We have a joint plan in place with the HCD, and that joint plan is working. We're making strides in the right direction. We must not undermine the investments of the city in this area with a decision that sets us back. There's with a use that is no longer allowed in that area by the community. Now, with your support, we will transform this community. But there are no Maryland state sales tax records that show that the store was operating. And the store was padlocked by Mr. Kim. And, you know, quite frankly, we are, quite frankly, you know, we are making tremendous progress. And I know I've said that before, but I don't think I can overstate it enough. The elimination of the AK gang down in that area was a significant step forward for the community. And the fact that they operated out of that store for so long lends itself to support the community's decisions and actions to take the course that we're on now. So once again, with your support, we will continue to transform this community. Thank you.
Mr. Washington, what is the condition of the property today?
The condition of the property today is still unused. And so, you know, I don't know what the interior of the property looks like, but it is still unused at this point. The condition of the block itself, and I think I sent pictures over highlighting current demolition that is going on, a recent demolition that has occurred, and the fact that we are continuing with Department of Housing and Community Development to eliminate the blight in that area, as we are and do have plans in place for new affordable housing. Denying the community the opportunity to transform, I think would be a misstep and a step obviously in the wrong direction. We've worked hard on this plan with DHCD, and the fact that they're supporting us, the city of Baltimore, with the investment in the area to eliminate the blight, and the fact that that area itself is not underserved by grocery stores. As a matter of fact, in the 1500 block of Carswell Street, 1 block away, there is a grocery store. And then on Polk, at the end of the 1600 block of Abbotston, there is another grocery store. So we were quite strategic in our plans for the area. And it was the fact that we were strategic that DHCD and the city of Baltimore decided that they would move forward with our redevelopment plan for the area and started to acquire en masse those blighted buildings in the 1600 block of Abbotston Street.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, I believe we have Ms. Marizu. Ms. Marizu?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay, wonderful. I'm a neighborhood member. You've probably heard from me before. I've definitely been before your board before. And I just wanted to talk about what it is to not be next to a corner store that is harboring drug dealers. Back in July of 2018, I came before you all upheld a ruling about the corner store next to my house. And let me say that in September of 2016, I do a Redfin estimate that they send me something about what my property be worth. In September of 2016, my property was worth $60,000 less than what I paid for it in 2006. And part of it was the active drug corner that I was sitting at. When I bought my property, even though I had been in Baltimore, I did not know I was buying at a, like an open air drug market, because the store had been closed when I purchased the property. It opened, and then eventually when it closed, it made a huge difference in my community. You can sit at my corner and you will not see a drug deal happen all day long.
And what's your experience as to, or your recollection as to when the store closed?
That the store at Abbotston closed at least more than a year ago, because I don't live right at Abbotston. I live on the 30th and Jennifer. So the store I'm talking about is just the experience of living next to a drug corner and a corner store. But I'm in the neighborhood and I've been past Abbotston. That store has been closed for more than, we've been doing census stuff. We've been doing, just trying to get like our community kind of more active. So I've been walking the neighborhood for different events over the last year and a half, and I haven't seen that store opened. It's been closed for at least a year and a half, if not more,
Okay,
from
thank
my
you.
recollection.
Just so you know, that's the critical issue that's before us as to the operation of that business. I recognize there's some other things you want to say, but materially, that's what we need to hear.
And I do want to let you all know that, what you all determine makes a difference in the neighborhood. And when Mark says that we're making progress, I can see it. And I can see it in the fact that the same Redfin estimate that I got in 2016, when I got it in February, showed my house at $60,000 more than it did in 2016. So I want you to know that what you decide makes a difference. And our community is making a change, and we are making forward movement. I really would plead for you to continue and help us make that forward movement by not opening that store again. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, ma'am, for your presentation.
Looks like we have Mr. Anthony Walters that would also like to testify. Mr. Walters? Yes.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can, sir.
Yes, good evening. My name is Anthony Walters. I also live in the Coldstream Homestead Montebello community. I rode past this property yesterday.
Yes, sir.
The neighborhood was so nice and quiet and clean compared to when the store was open. There were cars double parked in the street you couldn't drive through. There was a lot of activity on the corner, and there was also a lot of trash in the area. Late night, loud music, a lot of stuff was going on. right up the street in the next block, there's a playground. And my concern is for the young people. And if we've seen the news in the last few days, we've known that a lot of young children have been shot. One little girl just got out of the hospital yesterday with a bullet going through her kidneys. So, or her lung, I'm sorry. So my concern is for the residents of the area and also for those children, because I know things can happen anyhow, but when you put an opportunity out there for them to happen, you're building up a more chance for it to happen. So I would like to see the community in that area stay as quiet as it was yesterday, where I saw children playing in the street. I saw women walking, without fear. Seniors coming out without fear. I live right off of Tivoli, 30th Street. Years ago, there was a store on the corner where I lived at. It was an open air drug market. That store has been closed and converted into a beautiful home. And once that was done, we've had no problem. So when we move these kind of elements out of the neighborhood, I think it's a good chance for the neighborhood to prosper and to move forward. So I just want that our community to move forward. I don't want to go backwards.
All right, Mr. Walker, is there any information that you can share with us as to at least your understanding or personal observation of how long, if at all, the store has been closed?
It seemed like it's been about a year, so I'm not sure the date. But I ride through there, and I've been riding through that area a lot, and it's just been, the front has a gate on, the door has this grill on it, and it's just closed. I don't think anything's going on inside of it.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? You're muted, Ms. Byrne, I believe.
Sorry about that. All right, I was just going through the call-in users. Let me try one more. We have a few others still on the line. I've asked that if anyone would like to testify in this matter, please either raise your hand or put your name in the chat. If not, we'll go back to the applicant. Seeing no additional hands raised or names in the chat, I think we can go back to the applicant. Mr. Balde, I'll unmute him.
All right. Sir, can you hear me?
Yes. Thank you, and thank also the concerned neighbors. We all live in Baltimore. Mr. Balde live in Baltimore. I myself live in Baltimore, in the Hamilton neighborhood. So we do understand their concerns. But we're not really, the store is not really bringing anything in the, negative to the neighborhood. He cannot change what's in the neighborhood, but he's not bringing anything, negative to the, to the neighborhood or bringing drugs or any illegal activity or encouraging illegal activities, to the store.
Material question for your client is how long the store has been closed.
Okay.
When did he start operating the store?
Earlier you were asking about he's sent me if I can share my screen, I can also share the approval from both the health and the fire department.
Entity.
Okay, I will pass the ball to you so you can share your screen. Hold on one moment. Of course, it's... Just 1 second. All right, there you go. Oh, hold on, it didn't go. Wait 1 second. Mr. French, you're just holding the ball for me for a minute so I can move it down. Ms. Ramos, you are also holding the ball for me for a moment so I can move it down. Sorry about that. All right, it's not working the way I would like it to work. Just one moment. All right. There we go. Yes. All right, Mr. Balde, you now have the ball.
Okay. Okay. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So these are some. Let me just share their. So this is the health department approval. Full screen. Okay. Hold on. Let me see if I can. Trying to see how I can zoom in. Okay, so I can share it from here, I think. Still doesn't let me. I can send it maybe.
Can you tell us what the date on the document is?
Okay, it is. What was the date?
They're not on the document at the end?
No, it's let's see, on top. Giant Fruit Market. 10/10/2020. And I have also the approval from the fire department, which is also 10/09/2020. And he's shared also some pictures of the store from the outside and the inside the store, also the way it looks currently.
When did your client begin operating the store?
So he signed the lease in May and proceeded to obtain.
I understand when he signed the lease. When did he begin to operate the store?
No, he's not currently. He hasn't been able to operate because he doesn't have a license to operate yet. So he's when he applied, the fire department asked him to put because they have to store food so that they can inspect. So he purchased few items. There's a video also that I can share that shows. So these are the renovation he's been able to do. And he's not a great photographer, so you have to excuse the focus here.
Well, the focus here is how long the store has been vacant and not operating. So that's why I'm asking you these questions.
Yeah. So again, I will need to have because when he purchased it, it was operating, but.
And stop right there. When he purchased it, it was operating. He purchased it one more time. When did he purchase the business?
The business in May of 2020.
He purchased it in May of 2020, but did the prior owner have health department and fire department approval?
No.
Yes.
No. They apply for a CFO for use and occupancy, and you can. What I'm saying is that the information are I gather from the zoning zoning examiner. Mr. Abbas, that who I was on the phone with, told me that there's a use and occupancy application submitted in 2019, but the owner, the applicant was not able to secure fire and health inspection.
Okay, so when in 2019 was that the information that you got? When in 2019 was that application made for a use and occupancy?
I don't have the exact date, but it's in it should be in the system. He provided me with that information, but I haven't been able to log onto the city and find out exactly how to find out where they are.
All right, so you'd agree that in 2019 there was no use and occupancy permit for the operation of that store, correct?
I mean, there was one use and occupancy not issued to that owner, to that store.
And that owner bought it. That owner purchased it in 2019.
But the building and the business.
When in 2019? Do you know that?
No, I don't have that information.
Okay, so we know that at some point in 2019, that owner sought or petitioned for a use and occupancy permit and couldn't get one, right?
Did not go through the whole process.
Okay, well, stop. He didn't get a use and occupancy permit when he applied for it in 2019, whenever it was in 2019, right?
Yes, yes.
Your client seeking to get a use and occupancy permit, and he didn't get a use and occupancy permit.
Not yet. He's in the process. He was able at least to get what the previous owner couldn't get, the fire and the health inspection.
Okay, so you know the distance between, even if it was December 31st, 2019, today is March 9th, 2021. That's more than a year. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Okay, so the store hasn't operated for more than a year. Is that right?
So I don't have evidence. I don't think I don't have evidence of either the store was not. So from what Mr. Balde told me, that when he purchased it, the store was operating, but I don't have evidence to that to show you guys that either the store was open or was closed, that you guys can accept, and not just the word from either Mr. Balde or the community. So that's why I think it was critical for us to get approval from both the health and the fire department, or at least a business license that shows that the store has been operating. Because I think there's a difference between if the test is whether the store was operating or was lawfully operating, meaning that they had a use and occupancy that allowed them to operate.
Sure. It shouldn't have been operating if there was no use and occupancy, right?
We agree. And my experience, personal experiences, sir, is that a lot of these business owners don't really know what this, the system, what they're supposed to get. So they know that they want to open a store and they want to do the right thing, but sometimes they're not fed with the right information.
That's right.
So
they're stuck with what the law says, right? So let me ask either Ms. Byrne or Mr. French, to weigh in. Anybody operating a store in the absence of a use and occupancy permit, that's not a lawful operation, is it?
Correct. You have to have a use and occupancy permit in order to operate a business.
Okay, and we were talking about a store being operated and or discontinued. We're talking about a store being operated lawfully with an appropriate use and occupancy permit and appropriate health department, fire department approvals.
Correct. So I was able to go into the permit system and see that permits were applied for in 2019. And as we've heard testimony from the applicant, there were attempts at fire and health inspections that were not able to happen. It looks like there was one fire, but then no health was scheduled, and then it was reapplied again. So the inspections were never completed in 2019. So no use and occupancy was issued in 2019 for the new owner to operate.
And there's been no use and occupancy permit issued since.
Correct. 2006 was the last use and occupancy for a store.
Okay. All right.
All right, Mr. Baldi, I'm going to take the ball back from you.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's, I mean, we recognize that lots of folks do lots of things that are not permitted for them to do. You know, I believe the way, you know, BMZA operates and zoning in particular, we key off of dates that are representative of lawful activity. I mean, you could have opened the store yesterday, you know, in 2020 when he bought it without the use and opened it, operated by having people come in and buy things and sell things to them. But that would be illegal if it's done without a use and occupancy permit. And so
right, and
that doesn't count.
And I apologize, there was another individual who wanted to testify to her observations in history, was a Miss Lang. I did not see her hand. She is on the call.
All right, I will let's get to Ms. Lang, but Mr. French, were you prepared to add something at this point, or?
Not really. I was just
Okay.
going to note, you know, for the record, that you can see that this particular application in front of you was filed December 21st of 2020. If that's any indication. The time period you're looking at basically appears to have a gap from October of 2019 until December of 2020. But I say appears. You may have other evidence.
Understood. In October of 2019, is that when, Ms. Byrne, the efforts to obtain a use and occupancy occurred?
Yes.
Okay.
So it looks like just October, and pull up the application was submitted October 29th, 2019 for the new owner for the grocery store.
Understood. Thanks so much. The caller, if she wants to be heard, we'll hear her.
Sure.
Okay.
Ms. Lang?
Can you hear me?
We can, Ms. Lang. Go ahead, ma'am.
Oh,
Sorry for the wait.
That's okay, no problem. Thank you. Good evening or good afternoon to everyone. I have lived in the Chum community for over 20 years. And I know for a fact in the past year and a half or maybe even longer, that location has not been legally occupied. There has been no store ownership, selling out groceries or anything like that going on. And we are a very challenged community. We don't need another problem. And so we really would appreciate the board considering all the testimony that you have heard from the residents and our community director, Mark Washington, and vote no. So thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am, for your input.
That looks like that's it for anyone else.
All right. So just back to the appellant very briefly. I interrupted you to raise some issues, but you have the final word. And again, we've heard a lot, but is there anything else you want to add before we close the record on this?
Thank you. I mean, the only thing that I wanted to add is that Mr. Balde, you know, has been living in Baltimore City for the past 20 years. He's invested in the community. He's trying to open a store as a business owner and to participate also in, you know, as a business owner in Maryland's economy. And we do understand the neighbors' concern, and we are ready to work with them to make sure that concern that they have we'll work with them to take care of those concerns. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say that he's certainly, you know, well able to participate in the economy of Baltimore City, but he may not be able to do it where he wants to do it.
Yeah.
You know, there's an issue here with the prohibition on this kind of operation in a you know, what is a thought out and restricted regimen from that community.
Yeah,
so
we do understand that, but also that has to be balanced also of the fact that this is a commercial building built built originally as a commercial building, and also neighbors, I think, do not want also blighted buildings that would stay vacant, and I don't think that would participate into improving their property values. And if they one of the concerns also is drug activities. Drug activities happen in retail stores and in vacant buildings. So having a blighted building that's not going to be turned into a residential anytime soon, that will require investment to turn it into a residential store, and that also they have to weigh that
There may be valid points in a vacuum, but not in a vacuum. We're operating when CHUM has provisions on the books that prohibit the kind of business that your client wishes to operate, and prohibits them from reopening if they've been closed more than a year. And so that was the focus of where the evidence was. You have anything else to add on that? I think we've heard pretty much everything you had to offer on the length of time the store was not in operation. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we've heard, again, the material evidence on that issue. Is there anything else you'd like to add on that point?
And the fact that also he's been renting the store and paying rent since May. As a business owner, you can also understand how tough it is, for him. And he's already invested a lot of money to renovate the building, ready for use. And I'm pretty sure that if he knew then that he would be running into these issues, he would not be. But he was again fed with, information that right now we find really not helpful.
Yeah, well, hindsight is 20/20, and again, as business owners, we've had this issue before. In fact, we've had it today. It's incumbent on the purchaser, buyer beware, to know, what's at issue, what the requirements are, what the rules are, and beyond all that, you're coming to the board for relief, and the board has to be in a position legally to be able to grant that relief. And so we're making a record as to whether or not the board, the showing has been made that would allow the board the authority to grant the relief you're seeking. And I think the record's been made. So.
And Mr. Chair, there was another message in the chat from Miss Nikki Gilliam stating that the store has not been open in more than a year.
Okay, very well. I think I will conclude, the presentation at this point. Any final questions from the board? The applicant? All right, then we will end that there. Thank you, sir, for your presentation. Thank you, Mr. Bell. I believe that concludes the case docket.
It does.